Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some and peace out to the rest of you. You know who it is and who it ain't. The biggest, blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media signing, blacking and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And this message, I'm gonna start by saying that first I saw Oshay Duke Jackson's video. I learned a lot from him about who's doing what and what the patterns are. And in the video, there was a man that was supposedly, I couldn't hear this part clearly, he politely declined the lady, and then she started to roast him. And the thing is that I went on to Facebook and I saw where a black man that does not live in the States who has actually conversed with me on YouTube before pointed out how when sisters say that looks don't matter, they're lying because they may not care only about it. I'm sure they have to care about other things when they're choosing men, but what happens is that when they're upset with a man and they want to roast him, they then go to roasting up his looks. It always has to happen. I know that this happened. I was in 11th grade. A girl named Wendy was in the 8th grade. We had a mutual friend in 9th grade named Kim. Wendy was too young for me because that was a three-year age difference. She was in middle school when I was halfway through high school, so I wasn't going to entertain that because at that age it's a pretty big difference. So Kim called me up, and I knew what the deal was. Wendy was bound to be on three-way, so listening. So Kim asked me what I thought about Wendy the day that I went to her house and saw Wendy there as a guest. And I said, well, you said that she's in 8th grade, right? Yeah, I'm too old for her. Nothing against her, I'm just too old for her. Wendy was on three-way and started the same thing, proceeded to roast my looks. And of course, my phenotype, she had plenty to roast, but not for aesthetic reasons. It was for racial reasons. And she said, you really ain't all that. And people be saying like, oh, girl, he look good from the back, but you see him up close, he really ain't all that. And I was like, no, they don't. They're not talking about me. Well, you sit up here admitting that the women are sitting up talking about me? You're admitting this? Because I was unaware of this before. So I've been through that, and most of you listening have been through something similar. This is not a case unique to me. The issue here is that both of these gentlemen are correct. When you are going to win a debate with these women, or they can't just take the reality, they've got to roast you about your looks. And that's when they like your looks. This leads to something which, for many people, it's a normal human emotion. That's embarrassment. Now, I'm not a normal person. Shortly after my last fist fight, I began to have a change of mood. I began to care less about things like embarrassment, shame, and eventually I lost that sensation. Last fist fight, I was 18. By the time I turned 20, I had almost completely lost the feeling of embarrassment. I didn't lose my conscience. I can feel guilt, but sometimes I can't. But shame was gone. Almost completely gone, I'd say. I think I may have felt some embarrassment 2 times since then, and I can't even remember what it was about. What that means is that it's easy for me to sit up here and say to you that when I made the decision to not address the daggles, but rather to address the men and the pick-me's, that it was for the right reasons. It was not based on fear. It was not based on the fear of embarrassment or the embarrassment itself. It's not based on that. When I don't cam up, it's not because I'm hiding ugliness. I don't see that as something to hide. I don't cam up because I'm not going to let anybody ruin my livelihood. And more importantly, I'm not going to let anybody go after relatives. I once was doxxed years ago. It was my name, but they got a relative's picture. And that's not okay. That was not all right to me. I'm definitely not going to have them this time mistakenly dox one of my kids or cousins. It's not going to happen. And I'm not going to stop telling what I can visibly observe to be the truth either. So I'm going to do it this way. No apologies. I don't know it to anybody to cam up. And no one owes it to me to cam up. And that's why I also make every effort to be fair and try not to go in on people about things they didn't do and didn't say and that sort of thing. Because I realize that this is not the position from which to do it. It takes no courage to do stuff like that. So I can't abuse this. However, it's easy for me to say, well, I made this decision based on something other than fear or shame and more noble than those two. So what I'm going to say to you is not, well, look, don't fear being embarrassed. I'm not going to say that. It's embarrassment. So you're going to feel the fear of it if you're human. What I am going to say, though, was that if you don't choose to engage the daggle, of course, you want to make sure that you choose not to do so for good reasons. See, notice, I'm not telling you to not feel fear or shame or the fear of shame. I'm simply saying don't let that control you, even though that's an easy thing for me to say. I am going to say don't let it control you. However, what we both must do, you and me, is that we must prepare for the day that the daggles will bring this confrontation to us, that they will come and address us. I say that for this reason. Don't prepare for it because you care about what others say or don't care, any more than what's humanly normal, instinctive, and involuntary. Prepare for it because when they do it, they're probably going to do it in front of young women to try to show you in front of them, or do it in front of even young black boys to try to show you in front of them. Prepare only so that you can show and teach the young black girls and boys in front of whom they will do this the proper lesson. We don't owe it to you, Mrs. Daggle, to suffer. It's not a debt that we owe. We're not required to do that. We don't even have to be patient with your mean behind and your hypocrisy as you proceed to roast us for our looks because you're upset about a decision that we had to make. Now that I've covered that, I want to briefly touch on this. On my live stream yesterday, it went 6 hours. I didn't expect that. Y'all ninjas can be long-winded, and I can be too. And sometimes we went off topic, but we came back to it. But the thing I wanted to say, though, was that, you see, in terms of how smooth and slick talking the guests were, we were all over the spectrum. Pharaoh was the smoothest talker, but he also knew the most stuff from reviewing the most history as well, or living the most. Mr. Selassie and Carlos Red, they were honest and straightforward. They were not smooth, slick talkers, and that's not what they were trying to be. So I'm not taking a shot at them. I'm saying that they didn't have to be. That's what I'm getting at. They have found the submission and the good treatment and the respect by behaving in such a way as to earn it, not by manipulating verbally a lady into providing it. That's what they've done. A. LaRue is finding out that it is there for him in South America, whereas in the Bahamas, even though he's part of the top 1%, they try to pull that, trick a baby, that paternity fraud on him, the dual mating strategy. They screwed some guys. One of them screwed two guys that were not in the 1%. But then when she knew she was pregnant and didn't know which one of those two it was, she decided she was going to try to give some to A. LaRue so that she can get that 1% resources. So she was pretty much saying A. LaRue being in the top 1% don't matter when it comes to actually letting somebody skeet up in her vagina with no protection on. then, that 1% thing don't matter. But when it's time to raise and pay that bill, then it's time to take his resources. She tried it on him. This is in the Bahamas. He's the third one to tell me how bad it is in the Bahamas. The third one to tell me that. Boy, 2 was a coincidence, but 3 is a company. So, but he found the submission in South America. That's the whole point of it. Now, I found it too, but as I've always said, my own story can be typical or atypical. It depends. In many ways, my life is atypical. But see, when some people are going to come along and say, well, yeah, look at who was on the show and look that none of them cammed up. Yeah, you know what? They don't have to. It doesn't matter necessarily how they look. I wouldn't marry near one of them, no matter what they look like. I can tell by the way they sound, I wouldn't marry near one of them. I don't marry men. It doesn't matter to me. Point is that they were able to find the submission without having to be gamed up, so to speak. So when I saw that Locario had said, which Oshay Duke Jackson covered again, thank you, sir. Thank you, Brother Jackson. I saw that he had said something about, these guys being the lamest and the weakest and the black women being the easiest to get into bed. I'm like, no, see, Locario, nigga, you part of the problem. Not because I hate him. If he wanted to meet and just have a dinner, I wouldn't mind it. I'd listen to him, hear him out, but I still can't agree with what he's doing any more than I can agree with what the other ones are doing. Dating coaches are a problem. Coaches, not necessarily. So Coach Greg Adams is telling you what the traps are, what to avoid, what they're going to do. Same with Steph Clinkscales. That's why you don't hear me going after them. I don't have to agree with them all the time. You don't hear me going after them because they're not trying to reverse pimp black men. They're not trying to reverse pimp any men, which is a very noble thing to do if you can do. But Locario, he's not going to stop reverse pimping because you a black customer. He's not going to say, well, listen, black man, look, since, you a black man, I'm going to tell you what the real game is. It's really not you. You only know what you know anyway, and you're not supposed to be no mind reader. So I'm going to teach you, but I'm going to make the women pay for it because it's really going to benefit them. He ain't doing that. And that's why I stepped in and say, no, y'all need to stop this mess. Quit this reverse pimping of black men. Cut that mess out. It is not the men that benefit from this. Again, it is the women, and they're not even the ones paying. So I'm saying that to say that because of what you all could hear not only on my live stream, but on other shows even previously, and because of these men continuously proving that they don't want you to have better options as a normal, natural man that can't read women's minds, since they keep doing that, I'm out to ruin that way of life. Or at least that source of income. Now, I don't care if they go into, I don't care if they stay in that same business, but what we not gonna do, men, is pay them. And I'm calling on all of you, every last one of you, to not only never pay such men for their services, but to tell other men, don't pay. The only ones that should be paying for those services are gonna be the women because they're gonna be the ones to benefit. Because one thing these dating coaches ain't gonna tell you is don't approach them. One thing they're not going to tell you is, don't spend your money on the clothes that they want you to have. Don't do it. One thing they're not going to say to you is, make sure that they're worth the money that they want you to spend. They're not telling you that. They're sitting up looking at you and they're saying, oh, yeah, I can see why you need my help. Listen, we need to change this, and this. And then you got to, after you pay them to tell you that, you got to turn around and pay you the bills to change this, and this. And it's always going to be more expensive. Always. And when you're like, wait a minute, that's going to put me in debt. Well, you want to make this change or not? Oh, well, see, they're not going to sit up and say to you that these broads ain't worth it. But they're going to be the ones to benefit. So until the day that does happen, I am going against that way, that revenue stream. I don't care if it comes from the ladies. It should. I care that it does not come from black men. And I'm calling on all of you to join me in that effort. Just like I said, tell these young black men what they, really when they're boys, tell them exactly what their mothers don't want them to know about the games that are being run on them. I'm saying the same thing here. Tell every black man, old and young, you can find, don't ever pay one of these coaches to advise you just on how to pick up chicks. Don't do it. It's better to take that money and spend it elsewhere, meaning outside the West. That tends to work better. And then see, the thing is, some people say, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can go somewhere and get robbed. And it's true, you can. The problem is you can get robbed in the States. One time I saw a trick by a pro and I didn't think I was seeing it right. So I happened to stand off where they didn't see me, and I could see through some bushes, and I was like, yep, okay, they're really about to do this. So when both of them reached for their waist to remove the clothes, I turned around to leave. It was like, I'm not ready to see that. I wasn't Muslim yet, but I wasn't ready to see that. Nigga tried to rob me as I was leaving that. Now, why? Because he was waiting in the cut to go and rob the trick. But since I happened to be in between him and them, he got to me and tried to rob me. I'm not going to tell y'all what happened. To tell the truth, I actually didn't have anything for them to take. That's the truth of the matter. So I'm not going to go into all of that. He did not succeed in robbing me. I did not injure him, and I didn't kill him. I didn't have to do anything like that. The point I'm making is that by me happening to be somewhere, waiting on a ride, and see this happening in, next door, so to speak, by me happening to be there and getting ready to leave, somebody going to try to rob me, they would have gotten to the trick, I think, had I not been there. And this was in Atlanta. That's it. That's it. Party's over. I'm waiting on my ride outside. And this goes on next door. I didn't have to go to a third world country for this to happen. Cardi B from the Dominican Republic was admitted that she was robbing cats in New York. That wasn't the Dominican Republic. Nothing's happened to her since then. Nothing. I've had some misandrist feminists say that those men should take their L's because they were trying to pay for sex. And I'm like, well, it's not like any of you was going to try to marry a man for free and then have sex with him. So, granted, I'm not justifying the prostitution and the tricking. The point I'm making is that you're trying to use that to justify robbery and even sexual assault. You're feminist, you're misandrist, and you're Muslim. I don't want to hear this mess. That's the kind of mindset that these men are feeding into, even if they don't realize it. So that being said, even when feminists might say, oh, that's so sick, this man teaching you how to manipulate women, even when they say that, the real true fact is that they still benefit from that. So they still want these guys to continue doing what they're doing. And so, I mean, on one hand, they're upset. And there was a time I would have said, you know what, pickup artists, they're waging war against these feminists. Now I got to say, no, not necessarily. What's going on is the pickup artists are actually helping them. Even if the feminists think they're waging war, they're not. They're not doing so, because even though they are telling men certain things that women want men to know, but they never want to tell men, the fact is they're charging men to do it. And that's why I say, no, you're not really waging war. What you need to do is take your country behind and say to these women, you're the ones that want men to know certain things, but none of you wants to be the one to tell any man these things. So I'll tell them, you pay me to do it. So you pick some dude and you pay me, and I'll go tell that man all the things about women that you want him to know, but you don't want to be the one to tell him. Then this way you can continue playing your little game of, I like you, but I'm embarrassed about it. I don't want to come out and say it. And I don't want even other women to know that I like you. So, you get the idea. I think I've said enough. I think I've explained it enough. Point is, from here on out, I'm not just talking against dating coaches. I'm telling you to do the same thing. That's what I'm telling you. Don't even call them dating coaches. Call them what they are, reverse pimps. Still collecting from the men. And tell the men exactly what we need to know. We don't need to tell the reverse pimps to cut this stuff out. We can simply tell them what they're like. We need to tell other men what these reverse pimps are doing so that they don't have a customer base. Unless, of course, the customer base is the women that would actually benefit from this and therefore should be the ones paying the bills. Now, if that's what's going to happen, fine, great, dandy. I'll fuck the shuck up. But they know they can't go to the actual beneficiaries of this and say, why don't you pay for this or I'm going to stop doing it. They know they can't do that. That's what this is all about. I think I've said enough. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum. Black heterosexual non-select male power just because the gynocracy and the dating coaches don't like it. And unapologetically, black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.